Hello everyone. Before I begin the topic of today's video, I want to simply welcome you all to this brand new channel. This channel will just be simply me and background footage of me in my InfDev world on Minecraft. So hopefully you guys enjoy your stay. If you guys have any topics or you guys have any questions that you want me to answer for future videos, leave them down below. Long distance. Oh, where to begin with this? Long distance, in my opinion, is a really tough thing to really discuss about. I'm gonna honestly say, long distance is a really mentally and just really taxing overall, because there's a lot of things that I would love to do with the person I love the most, but at the same time I can't really do those things because I'm not physically there for that person. And that's one of the reasons why long distance is such a huge challenge and such a huge commitment for the both parties, is strictly because of that. Those are the main reasons why long distance is overall just something that a lot of people shouldn't do. I understand that there's a lot of things that benefit long distance in the long run, but most of the time long distance does not work. And I'm willing to admit that myself. Even though I'm currently in one, I'm willing to admit that not all long distance relationships work out. Majority of the time it never does. But I just want to talk about my experience about long distance so far and how I personally believe, and how it affects me as a person. How I believe long distance can work is the fact that it's a huge commitment, firstly, and secondly, you get to know the person's personality before anything else. Which, yes, I understand, physically it would be better off that way so you can kind of vibe off of them that way. But the reason I believe that that's an advantage is because, just think about it. By the time you most likely visit this person, you've already been familiar how they are, you've already been familiar how they act, you're kind of familiar how they behave. So, essentially, it's not going to be awkward at all. Maybe you guys will be nervous to meet each other, or maybe you guys will just be nervous around each other. But the fact that you guys know each other very well already goes to show that, hey, there's some things that are really good about long distance. I mean, that's not just one of them, but that's one of the biggest factors of long distance that I can honestly say from someone who's currently in one right now. But there still are a lot of negatives. Like, for example, let's firstly talk about the beginning phase of long distance. At first glance, when you start a long distance relationship, it honestly feels easy because when it starts off, things are pretty much like, in a way, like the honeymoon phase. You are always, hanging out with each other, having fun together, playing games, and all that. It's basically exactly like the honeymoon phase in a real relationship. I mean, I'm not saying long distance is not a real relationship. I'm saying that, like, in a normal relationship, it's essentially just like the honeymoon phase in a way. There's no arguing, you guys are just having fun, you guys are just having a great time with each other. But one of the biggest downsides of long distance is, for one, communication. Communication is a really tough thing, especially on both parties. Especially if one is not used to communicating as much, then it's a really tough battle to make sure that the person starts doing exactly that. And it's just, there's a lot of things that can cause arguments as well. Like, for example, when your partner is not texting you that much at that very specific time, or someone's overthinking. An example would be, you left your partner on red accidentally, or on deliver. I mean, there could be many different causes of it. I mean, for one, you could be asleep and you didn't get to read their text message, or two, you were just not able to respond at that very specific moment. Now, this depends on the person that is in response to this happening. Like, if the person's overthinking and thinking the worst, then this is where long distance will honestly struggle a lot. Because if you overthink, then it's bound to go wrong in so many levels. Overthinking is one of, if not the worst thing that can go on in a long distance relationship. And I think a lot of you would definitely agree when it comes to that. Because depending on how things have gone in both lives, it will end up being separate problems. They'll end up being separate issues. Like, for example, let's say person A deals with overthinking and has been bullied all their life and, thinks of the worst case scenarios all the time. And person B is very, very insecure about things that go on in their life. Actually, I think insecurity is just as bad as overthinking. I'm not saying I'm trying to compare and contrast. I'm just saying that if one person overthinks a lot and the other person is insecure a lot, then you're bound to have problems, right? If person A has friends that they're really good friends with, but person B does not like them because, they're too friendly with them or yada, 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 then, that can start trouble. That can start person B to start overthinking because they feel insecure about whoever they're hanging out with. Also, the fact that person B could also feel like they're being replaced by these people that person A is talking to. Another example of someone overthinking is when person B overthinks about what person A does. Like when person A talks to a bunch of people, person B could think, what if person A gets closer with so-and-so, that friend that they talk to a lot? That can lead to a lot of trust issues, a lot of just bad and negative things that can go on throughout the relationship. Because if you don't trust your partner, if you don't trust the person that you're spending a lot of time with, that can really lead to a lot of affected problems in a relationship. Now, just like I mentioned, trust. That I keep saying that for pretty much for every single topic, but trust is, I think, top of the line things that you need to have in a long distance relationship. Hell, in any relationship for that matter, you need to have trust. Now, I understand that there are times where your trust will be broken. I understand there will be times to where you feel like you can't trust your partner after a certain issue that happened or a certain problem that occurred. I understand that, but you need to understand that trust is a main factor in what can bring any relationship together. Because if you trust your partner, if you really trust them, then there's nothing to feel insecure about. There's nothing to overthink about. I've had to go through that myself a lot when I was in the early stages of my long distance relationship. I had to learn all over again about trust. I used to believe, oh, I could trust, people online. I was wrong. After a lot of mistakes both parties have made, me and my partner, there's been a lot of times where, trust has been a problem. And that's a huge factor in a relationship, is you need to have trust for your partner. Now, the one thing that I just do not like about long distance is just the fact that you cannot be there for the person. You cannot physically be in their presence, You won't be able to hug them. You won't be able to hold hands with the person, You won't be able to do anything with the person because you're not physically there. And since you're not physically there, that can cause, loneliness as well. If something happens with the person, at work or with family, you can't physically comfort the person. All you can really do is just tell them, hey, it's going to be okay, yada, yada, yada. Try to make them feel better as best as possible. I myself go through that struggle almost every single day. When something happens, there's nothing, I can't really do anything right now because I'm not physically there to comfort the person that I love the most. And that's why I think it's just one of the hardest parts about long distance that I personally do not recommend long distance for a lot of people. But there is proof that it does work. It's just that majority, it's like flipping a coin. You're basically gambling, a person. It's instead of flipping a coin, you're flipping whether this person is gonna work or not. It's different. But man, arguments are definitely way worse long distance than they are in an actual normal relationship, because let's say a person's mad at you or a person just does not communicate with you well. If they get upset, they could just hang up the phone, misunderstand a specific thing. Like if they read a text message, that they can misunderstand it. This is where the whole overthinking insecurity part really has an effect, is specifically arguments. Because if you have any of these traits, overthinking or insecurity, there could be more, I'm not sure, I'm just going to list these two specifically for a reason, then my god, you're going to be dealing with a lot of arguments. And that can also cause a lot of mental issues as well when it comes to someone, is due to the fact that you guys are arguing all the time. Also, when it comes to these arguments, is that, let's say the topic wasn't that big of a deal, right? Let's say you make a joke, the other person doesn't like it, and then the person that doesn't like it proceeds to make it an even bigger problem. There's been many situations to where I've said something and then it ended up skyrocketing into a full-blown argument. Like, it was originally supposed to be a joke or was supposed to be a lighthearted thing, and boom, instantly, in less than a freaking 2 seconds, it just spiked up to a argument. Now, I'm not trying to pinpoint who's to blame, because I've definitely made a lot of mistakes when it comes to these specific things, but I'm just saying that definitely arguments will for sure hit different when it comes to, you know, long distance. So the one positive, well, there's multiple positives, but one of the few positives about long distance that I can definitely list is the fact that when you guys see each other, it will feel way more rewarding than you will realize. For example, I'm going to speak from personal experience. So as of this recording, it is currently May 5th, I'm going to see my partner on the 27th of this same month. I've been with this person for a year straight. So I've dealt with a lot with this person. We've gone through a lot together. And the fact that I'm finally at the, well, not the end of the road, but finally I'm able to meet this person, it will feel way more rewarding. This is one of the main things about long distance that I personally really like, is the fact that if you get through the hurdle of all of the things that I've listed, then you're set for life. You two are essentially partners for life, because the part about long distance that really stands out over regular relationships is trust and communication. If you have both of those things, if you can trust each other and you can communicate, as well as eventually visit each other, then you guys can be together as long as you want, because that's what spikes these very long relationships, is communication, trust, also love, and also the ability to just appreciate one another. That is one of the things that, well, besides visiting the person, that's one of the things that I believe is a really huge positive when it comes to long distance. Now, in the same topic of that, let's say you do not have good communication, you do not trust your partner, you start to grow apart. This is just one of the unfortunate gambles of long distance, is the growing apart portion of a relationship. It's just, oh man, I can't tell you how many times, you know, I felt drifting away from the person, but I still committed to the person. I still loved them every single day. This is a phase in a relationship, by the way. This is not just oh, this just happens. No, this is a phase in any relationship, but mainly long distance, is that once you guys have been together for a while, you will start to not feel the same feelings as you did early on. That's just a part of the evolution process of y'all's relationship. If you guys can get past the growing apart phase, then you guys are in for the long run, essentially. Because the growing apart phase is what breaks most long distance relationships for most people. That is one of the biggest parts of it. Now we get into loyalty and temptation. Now, honestly, being loyal to a person is very difficult for a lot of people. It's crazy to say that, right? It's common sense to be loyal to your partner, but a lot of people these days do not do that. And there have been many cases to where it seems like on the surface your partner, you know, is loyal to you and all that, but then behind the scenes, then they're not really loyal to you whatsoever. Unfortunately, most long distance relationships, I believe, usually end with 1, trust issues, 2, loyalty issues. Someone getting cheated on, or someone doing something behind their back. That's one of the, I believe, one of the crucial parts of long distance that's really tough for a lot of people, is that specific thing. Now, when it comes to the breaking point, oh man, the breaking point can happen at any given moment. Literally, like, you guys can wake up, start of the day, you know, happy as can be, and then literally maybe midway through the day, an argument starts, it gets worse and worse. Like, it just does not stop. And let's say one of your, like, person A says something very hurtful to person B in regards to whatever they were venting to them, you know, early on and stuff like that, like things that they were insecure about or things that they were overthinking about all the time. Person A says something that was really hurtful, and person B does not know whether to, like, person B does not have trust in them anymore because of that specific topic, and it can just drift y'all apart. just like that. And also, the breaking point can happen whenever someone doesn't put enough effort as they should be. If person B is putting more effort than person A, then that shows that, you know, person A doesn't seem like they care. Now, that doesn't always mean that way. That could also be like person A just isn't thinking, or person A is not thinking whatsoever. But I'm just saying that these are some things about the breaking point of a long distance relationship that I believe can really, really impact any relationship, but mostly long distance when it comes to this. When long distance does succeed, it is really, really, really just rewarding. Because, like I mentioned earlier, once you guys get past the growing apart phase, because obviously you guys will be arguing a lot, right? You guys will be arguing a lot. That is a given. Arguing will be a huge key factor in a long distance relationship, so just learn to accept it. But if you guys can get through the hurdles of the growing apart phase, you know, the arguing phase, basically those two things, then it will be as successful as a normal relationship. Because you guys already trusted each other early on anyways, and if you guys communicate and trust each other throughout however long, and then you guys finally meet each other, move in together and all that, you guys will have a stronger bond than those who started off in person. That is one of the huge benefits of being in long distance. Yes, it's a huge gamble, but if you gamble it right with the right person, it will feel hella worth the effort that you put in for the relationship. So I just want to be aware that there's a lot of mental things that you need to put into picture when you're in a long distance relationship. Like, for example, you guys will feel lonely all the time, you know? Loneliness is just a really, really key factor in it, because, you know, you guys aren't physically there for each other. So that alone is just that can really affect someone's mental health, you know? Also, emotional burnout, you know? That can happen so often. For example, let's say a person is always away from whatever device or away from whatever's going on with the person, because you're constantly missing the person, you're constantly alone by yourself, you know, that, and also attachment issues getting worse. The one thing about long distance is that you guys will be, if you guys are, let's say hypothetically, you guys are in a long distance relationship for about 5 months, you will grow some sort of attachment to the other person. And also, you will just end up getting clingier and clingier, or just more attached to the person, because, you know, that's also normal. But I'm just saying that attachment issues could also get worse because you're not physically seeing the person, you're not physically, you know, interacting with them, you're not physically seeing them. So behind the scenes, you don't know what's going on with them, you don't know what's happening, or this and that. So either partner can get really clingy, really huge attachment issues, and that can affect the relationship. That really can, honestly. And now, one of, if not the hardest parts of long distance, besides the mental part, besides of the phases that you guys will go through, is the parents, the family side of long distance. Will your family accept your relationship for being far apart? Now, some parents do accept it because, you know, the person's happy, the person's in love, etc., etc. But there can also be those parents that genuinely don't understand it. For example, parents that were born from a different generation, like millennials or Gen X. Those people do not understand, they don't understand the point of long distance. And that's understandable because they grew up in a generation where they did not ever consider doing long distance because that wasn't a thing. It was only in-person stuff. So some families honestly won't even accept you. And that's really taxing on your mental health. Is you could be committed to this person, but some families just won't accept you. Won't accept the relationship because they doubt it makes sense to be in a relationship with someone that you can't physically see. And then they'll make comments like, that's not a real relationship. A real relationship would be in person, you know, because, like I said, depending on the generation, and also depending on the family, and depending on the person, the mom and dad, or just dad or mom, you know, it can really, really impact y'all's relationship for the long run. And that sucks because there's a lot of good relationships that come out of long distance, but will end up ending due to family. And that's just, it sucks, honestly. I can't blame, if there's people out there when watching this video struggling with this kind of thing, I feel bad for y'all, because I'm blessed alone that both my parents as well as my partner's parents both accept us. I don't know, I don't understand that specific struggle, and I'm grateful that I have what I have. But for those who don't have what I have, you know, just keep pushing, man. Don't give up. Please don't. Now, also another thing that's, you know, that can, I'd say social pressure in a way, is that just comparing yourself to normal couples. Like, for example, let's say you're walking on the street, and then, you know, you're walking on the street to like a diner or to somewhere, and then you see a couple just spending time together, you know, being happy. You know, you kind of just sit there and you're like, damn, I wish that was me and my partner right now. That's a social pressure aspect of it, is that you just see so many happy couples physically in person, you know, happy and such. But that also can lead to pressure, because you just want to be like these couples, but you can't at the moment. So it creates this sort of pressure on, you're putting pressure on yourself by comparing yourself to other couples. Now we get to the question about, is it worth being in a long distance relationship? When is it best to know when to keep going with the relationship? When is it best to let go? That, you gotta be honest with yourself as well as your partner. You cannot just play with your partner's feelings, nor play with your own feelings. You know, if you don't feel loved anymore, if you don't feel like it's working, then just leave. Don't, you know, hold yourself back. I can say that for both sides, not just one side. Now, the question about when is it going to keep going, like, when do you know when to keep going, or if it's, or just let go? Honestly, like I just mentioned, it's up to you as the person. Because if everything's going smoothly, if you guys have been in the relationship for about 5 even more, keep going, see how things go. Now, if the person themselves is not improving, if the person themselves is not showing any signs of, if they haven't changed whatsoever, then maybe consider that idea of potentially, is it this relationship even worth it anymore? Because a lot of times in relationships, whenever you're thinking your partner does not change at all, or whenever your partner is just constantly just showing no signs of anything changing, that can really that shows how the person truly is as they are. If they don't show any signs of anything changing, if, like, the window for them to start showing signs of change is about the 5-month mark. If you're with that person and you're a year in with them, or you're past the 5-month mark and they have not shown a single sign of changing since you started being with them, that is the sign to let go. As much as you don't want to accept it, that is a sign to let go. But if you guys are communicating, you guys are effective with trust as well. But I understand, you know, even with those benefits, there will still be arguments. But if you guys push through that, yes, keep going with it. You know, it all depends on y'all's situation or the current issues at hand in said relationship. In the long run, it's worth the gamble, but it's just a huge commitment. And I just want y'all to know that no matter what is going on with y'all's relationship, I believe that it can work out. And I just want y'all to know that, because I myself am currently going through one, and I'm assuming that just the fact that you clicked on this video shows that you are thinking about, or you're currently in a long distance relationship, and you can agree or disagree with whatever takes that I have or whatever points I have. That's completely up to y'all. I'm just simply, you know, discussing about this because this is a topic that I've been wanting to discuss about for a while, because it is something that there's a lot of struggles, a lot of negatives, a lot of positives, you know. It's a huge gamble, but at the end of the day, if everything clicks, everything is worth the gamble. It's just that you guys need to have hope. And hope is something that can really affect whether a relationship continues or not. Alright, so if you guys made it to the end of the video, I just wanted to simply make a little progress update on what I've been working on the entire video. So, pretty much what I've been doing is I've just been digging out this mountain, because as you can see, I do have plans to build something here. So, with that being said, as you saw at the start of the whole recording, I was up here, and now I'm down here. I will be doing more off camera, but I just wanted to simply do a little progress update on what I have done throughout the entire video. Alright, with that being said, if you guys enjoyed the first video that I've made on the channel, like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. And if you guys want more, or if you guys have any topic suggestions that you would like to have me talk about for future videos, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and with that being said, I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace out, everyone!